Today, I'm gonna give the Adept Flying Fiddles palette another chance. So I posted a video last week where I tried out this palette for the first time. It's also my very first Adept Cosmetics palette. I did 2 separate eye looks in that video, and I wasn't too impressed with the formula like I've heard other people talk about it. And from the comments in that video, most people were saying that they like Adept's formula for the multi-chromes and shimmers, and they find that their mattes are pretty tricky to work with, which is kind of okay with me because this palette only has 4 matte shades in it. So I want to give this palette another chance today and pair it with some matte formulas that I do enjoy and love to work with. I've been having some fun kind of mixing my palettes recently to create some new and different looks, so let's play with this palette again and try to come up with something fun and exciting and a look that I'm gonna love. I did have a couple people say that they felt like some of the shades in this palette is similar to my palette with Sigma, so I do want to do a couple comparison swatches really quick just to show you guys. I'm gonna start with the matte blue shades. This is Green Kelly from Adept and PDX from my palette with Sigma. They do look pretty similar in the pan, but PDX has more blue to it. For the other matte shades, this is Sahara from the Adept palette. See, even just swatching that, that just swatch isn't that great. And then this is Schmoogala from my palette. So they're both just kind of medium warm brown shades. This is Pom Pom Button from Adept. And then this is Faye from my palette. So the one from Adept has more of a deeper base to it and a lot more reflect than Faye does. This is Yellow Bronwyn from Adept. And then this is Hollywood from my palette. So Sigma shimmers don't really have the same reflect that the shadows in the Adept palette has, which is totally fine. My palette is a bit softer in formula. Let's do one more shade. This is Daylily from Adept, and this was a shade that I really struggled with in my first look with the palette. And then this is Zinfandel from my palette. So this shade's a little bit brighter, a little bit more pink in it, but I can definitely see myself using the matte shades from my palette rather than the Adept formula, just because I think that Sigma's mattes are a lot easier to work with. Okay, so I'm kind of doing a couple swatches just to get an idea of what shimmers I want to use from the Adept palette today. And this Airy Sama shade is a very unique color, so I kind of want to start with that and kind of go from there. So my eyes are primed and ready for eyeshadow. I use the Essence eyeshadow primer, and then I did set that with the translucent powder. So I'm going to start with this shade on my finger, and I'm just going to pack that all over my lid. So I wanted to start with this shade and get this laid down so I can really see what colors are in this shade, because I do believe it's a multi-chrome. I'm seeing some green and pink in there. So I packed that all over my lid, and now I'm kind of moving it upwards towards my crease, and then I'll go in with some brushes to blend it out. But the funny thing about this shade is that I also feel like it leans pretty neutral. Like, it's neutral, but with pink and green in it. It's very unique. I'm just gonna take a clean crease brush and start to blend out the edges of this shimmer. So I want to add some definition in my crease, so I'm going to take Basic from my palette, and I'm going to run that throughout my entire crease. Zoomed in a little bit more so you can see everything. Now I'm going to take a little bit of Schmoogala from my palette, and I'm going to place it in the upper part of my outer crease. So I always place my brush down first where I want the most pigment, and then I'll kind of blend around the edges. And then taking a little bit more Schmoogala and patting that on the outer part of my lid. I want to add one of these 2 shades to the lid as well. This one is Yellow Bronwyn and this one is Daffodil. I think I'm leaning towards this one. So that is Yellow Bronwyn, and I'm going to place that on the inner part of my lid. Ooh, I love a shade like this that has kind of a green light reflect in it. I feel like that first shade I started with just isn't super reflective looking on my lid versus how it looks swatched on my finger. So I'm gonna try to touch that up kind of on the center of my lid. I'm going to do my under eye concealer to help clean up the edge of the eyeshadow. I'm just using my Natasha Denona concealer in RN3. And then setting my under eye with the translucent powder, I'm using the Lunar Beauty one. Now I'm going to take a clean, small crease brush, and I'm going to pat over this edge of shadow just to soften it. Now let's do the lower lash line. I think I want to do either like a deep blue or a dark green. I'm going to take Green Kelly from the Adept palette on a small smudge brush, and I'm going to place that on the outer part of my lower lash line. And then whatever's left on my brush, I'm going to stamp on the outer part of my top lash line. Now for my palette, I'm going to mix Basic and Bare together. And I'm taking that on my small crease brush. And this will give me a nice light shade to work with to blend out the blue on my lower lash line. So I'm just using these shades to soften out the edges of the blue. And then I'm picking up a little bit more blue on my smudge brush and then just very softly blending on top of that again. So I'm leaving the inner part of my lower lash line blank because I think I want to add something fun right there. So I'm going to take this Scorpion Grass shade on my smudge brush, and that's going to go on the inner part of my lower lash line. The shade kind of reminds me of that yellow bronze shade on this part of my lid, but it has more green to it. This is kind of fun. Now I'm going to pick up Honey Spurge on a pencil brush, and I'm going to pop that in my inner corner. I have been loving this shade from the palette. It is such a good highlighter shade for me. I've really been liking doing a nude waterline recently, so I'm going to take this nude liner from Tarte. And doing this step also kind of cleans up any eyeshadow that's in your waterline. I went ahead and did this eye off camera, and I finished up my eyes with some mascara and lashes. And then for my lashes, I'm wearing my new lash from the Bright Lashes, which is the Half Lash Whisper. So I applied that lash, and then I always stamp some black shadow on top of that lash band just to really hide it, kind of give it a little bit more of a smokier look, and I think this looks gorgeous. So here's a final close-up of the eyes all done. I figured we could do the rest of my base makeup together on camera. I did apply my foundation and concealer already. On the day I'm filming this, Patrick Ta just launched 3 new shades of his blush, so I really want to buy one of them, but I'm gonna try to hold off for a little bit, so I'm gonna use the one that I already have, and I have the shade She's Blushing. I just watched Babs Beauty whole review of it, and oh my gosh, 2 of the shades look so pretty. The one more coral one and then the more like neutral one are just calling my name. But you know, I already have one, so let me just enjoy this. And I want to apply it how you're supposed to, which is the powder first and the cream second, which just feels so wrong. Start with the powder, just take a little sweep of that. These are so pigmented, like you really only need a little bit of product. And I'm gonna place that all along my cheeks. And then I also kind of wanted to do this warmer blush today just to really contrast with the blue and green in my eyes. Yeah, I'm trying to resist the urge to buy one of the new shades right now, but I know the Sephora spring sale comes up in like March, right? So I might pick up one of them then. I tend to always love how my base looks whenever I wear this blush. And in my first video with the Adept palette, I had just like a terrible makeup day that day. So, you know, it was kind of hard to blame it just on the palette. So that's why I'm trying to use products that I know and love with this palette today. And then I want to try the cream with this fluffy brush because I saw Babs Beauty do it, so I'm gonna try it too. This is different, but okay. And just going right on top of that. So I think the point of putting the cream on top of the powder is to give you that kind of glow and like have it really sink into your skin. And then I have this one cheek product. I cannot stop using it. I've been wearing it every single time I do my makeup, and it's the bareMinerals Highlighting Blush in Rose Glow. Specifically this color because it's a really, really light pink, so I like to use it to kind of blend my blush into my under eye. I'm just gonna take a little bit of that on a powder brush, and I just kind of set right where my blush meets my concealer. And it just like blends this area, adds a little bit of a glow. Do you see the difference? I don't know. I've been liking it a lot. I also now have a code with bareMinerals. I think it saves you 20%. It's Angela, just to use on their website. So I've been loving this. And then also their new matte foundation, the Skin Perfecting Matte Liquid Foundation. I've been using this one a lot as well. I've actually been trying a bunch of different products recently and kind of want to do just like one big speed review. So I'll probably do that next week. And now since my cheeks are like so warmed up, I'm gonna add some bronzer just pretty much on my forehead. My hair is kind of hiding it, but you know, I'm gonna bronze it anyways. I'm gonna take my Hourglass Nude Bronze Light. I do want to highlight my brow bone. I didn't do that yet, so I'm going to take Bright from my palette. Just pop that right under the brow. The light shade from the Adept palette, Honey Spurge, I think it's just a little too reflective for under my brow, but I love it for the inner corner. I like something a little bit softer under my brow. See how glowy my cheeks look? And I'm not wearing highlighter. Just the Patrick blush and the bareMinerals Rose Glow. So pretty. Now for lips, I always like to start by blanking them out with my foundation brush. And I'm gonna line my lips with Makeup Forever Wherever Walnut. And then I'm gonna pop on this Lawless Forget the Filler in Nudie. All right, and this is the final makeup look. I definitely feel much better about my entire look today than I did in my first video with the Adept palette, but I still just feel like I am not blown away by these shadows. Yes, they're really pretty, but I just expected like something magical with these shimmers and multi-chromes, and I think they're beautiful, but I'm not like, oh my gosh, you guys have to try this formula. You know what I mean? Like, it's good, but not the best thing in the world. But I am much happier with this look that I created today. It was really fun kind of playing with those bluish green shades, the pop of brown in the crease. I think it's a really pretty look. And I always think it's super fun to do more of a pop of color on the lower lash line and keep the lid a little bit more neutral. So I guess my final thoughts is that I can see myself reaching for this palette if I want kind of a bluish green reflective multi-chrome shade. But since I got this palette, like I've said before, I keep reaching for this Honey Spurge shade for my inner corner. Like, I just want to like pop this shadow out and pop it in a little palette so I can use it for my inner corner every day. I definitely don't see myself grabbing this palette for the matte shades. In the swatches, we saw that like these three were very close to the matte shades in my palette with Sigma, and I would much rather use that matte formula over this one. As always, I'm gonna link every single product I used today down below, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.